When you picture a Viking, what do you see? Fierce warriors charging ashore, axes raised, eyes burning with fury, and on their heads, those famous helmets crowned with horns. It's one of the most powerful images in history. But what if I told you it's a lie? What if I told you that the horned Viking helmet never actually existed? Tonight, we tear away the myths, peel back the centuries of legend, and reveal the truth about Viking helmets. What we discover will change how you see the Vikings forever. The Vikings have been immortalized as gods of war, raiders of coasts, and conquerors of kingdoms. From movies to comic books, opera houses to Halloween costumes, their helmets with great curling horns have become their signature look. But history tells a different story, one hidden beneath layers of fantasy, propaganda, and 19th century imagination. This is the tale of how a myth was born, how it spread across the world, and why it continues to shape our idea of one of history's fiercest people. And by the end of this journey, you'll never look at the Vikings or their helmets the same way again. Before we tackle the myth, let's first step into their world. The Viking Age spanned from the late 8th century to the 11th century. Hailing from the lands we now call Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, these Norsemen sailed across Europe, leaving behind fear, fire, and forever changed kingdoms. They were shipbuilders, traders, explorers, and raiders. They reached as far as North America long before Columbus ever dreamed of the New World. They carved runes into stone, worshipped gods like Odin and Thor, and built a legacy that still echoes across time. But when we picture them, the horns on their helmets dominate the vision. And yet not a single Viking warrior was ever found buried with such a helmet. So where did this idea come from? Who first put horns on Viking helmets? The answer takes us not to the Viking Age, but to the 19th century. In 1876, the composer Richard Wagner unveiled his opera cycle, Der Ring des Nibelungen. On stage, gods and Valkyries stormed the set, dressed in costumes topped with massive horned helmets. It was theater, it was spectacle, and it cemented the image of the Viking as a horned warrior in the minds of millions. The irony? Those helmets weren't based on Viking finds at all. They were creations of Wagner's costume designers, artistic fantasy, meant to impress an audience, not historical truth. But the story doesn't end there. Archaeology did uncover helmets with horns, but they came from a time long before the Vikings. Bronze Age ceremonial helmets discovered in Denmark and elsewhere sometimes featured tall horns or elaborate decorations. These weren't for battle. They were for rituals, for worship, for power displays. Centuries later, 19th century archaeologists and artists stumbled upon these finds. They saw the horns and mistakenly connected them to the Viking warriors. The image stuck. The result? A powerful illusion that Vikings too must have worn horns into war. An illusion so strong, it eclipsed the truth. The truth is far more practical and far more brutal. Archaeological evidence shows us that Viking helmets were simple, functional, and designed for survival. They were typically made of iron, rounded or conical in shape, sometimes with a nose guard for protection. No horns, no extravagant decorations, just cold, hard steel, meant to turn aside a blade. And here's why horns would have been a disaster. In real combat, horns would be a liability. They could catch a sword, they could unbalance the warrior, they could even give an enemy something to grab in the heat of battle. To wear horns in war would be to invite death. The Viking was many things, but foolish he was not. So why then, despite all this evidence, do we still picture Vikings with horns? The answer lies in the power of storytelling. Once Wagner's operas popularized the image, artists, illustrators, and later filmmakers latched onto it. The horned Viking helmet became a visual shorthand, instantly recognizable, instantly dramatic. It looked fierce, it looked terrifying,
and it sold tickets, books, and movies. Even in the 20th century, when scholars had long since debunked the myth, pop culture kept the horns alive. From cartoons like Hagar the Horrible to Hollywood epics, the horned helmet refused to die. It became more than a piece of armor. It became an icon. But here's the tragedy. By focusing on the horns, we lose sight of the real Viking warrior. We trade reality for fantasy. The true Viking helmet, plain though it was, tells us something far more powerful. That survival, not spectacle, shaped their world. That every piece of iron, every shield, every ship was a tool in their desperate struggle to endure, to conquer, to carve their place in history. The horns are not just a lie. They are a distraction from the harsh, breathtaking reality of the Viking Age. So the next time you see a Viking helmet crowned with horns, remember, you are not looking at history, but at a story written centuries later. A story born in opera houses, museums, and movie sets. The Vikings may not have worn horns, but their true legacy of courage, exploration, and ferocity remains far more extraordinary than any myth could imagine. If this journey into the truth behind Viking helmets has fascinated you, then you'll want to see what happened to an entire Roman legion that vanished without a trace. It's one of history's most chilling mysteries, and I've uncovered it in my video, The Vanished Roman Ninth Legion, Mystery That Haunts Historians. Click the end screen now to watch it, and don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of History for more forgotten truths, hidden myths, and untold stories, because history always has secrets waiting to be revealed.